What's going on today, YouTube? Rob here. In today's video, I've got a deck profile planned for you. This is my take on Melffys. This isn't the most competitive variant of the deck. This also isn't like a super optimal pure variant, I'll say. This is kind of just something I threw together that I thought would be kind of fun for you guys. Kind of just give you a neat little deck. And this is what I came up with, so I hope you guys enjoy. But before we get started, I just want to say, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for more fun Yu-Gi-Oh videos. And without wasting any more of your time, let's get into it. Alright guys, let's get into this Melffy deck profile. This deck isn't really competitive, in my opinion. And this is just kind of something I threw together. It's also not the most pure variant of Melffys. This is just something cute and kind of funny that I thought I would do. So let's start off with triple copies of Melffy Ravi. This is just a 2-star normal monster with 0 attack and 2100 defense points. Our next monster that we have is triple copies of Kalantosa, the Mystical Beast of the Forest. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a beast monster, you can target one card on the field and destroy that target. Next up, we have 3 copies of Valeraphon, Mystical Beast of the Forest. So this card allows you to discard one card, then target one level 2 or lower beast monster in your graveyard, except for Valeraphon, Mystical Beast of the Forest, and special summon it in attack position or face down defense position. And you can only use this effect of Valeraphon, Mystical Beast of the Forest once per turn. Next up, I have 1 copy of Danger Jackalope. You don't have to play this card, it can be any card, but I figured since it is a beast, it kind of just suits the fact that every other monster in this deck is a beast-type monster. Danger Jackalope's effect reads as follows. You can reveal this card from your hand, and your opponent randomly chooses one card from your entire hand, and then you discard the chosen card. Then, if the discarded card was not Danger Jackalope, you special summon 1 Danger Jackalope from your hand. And if you do, draw 1 card. If this card is discarded, you can special summon 1 Danger Monster from your deck in defense position except Danger Jackalope, and you can only use this effect of Danger Jackalope once per turn. Next off, we have 3 copies of Melffy Fenny. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster or monsters, except during the damage step, or if an opponent's monster targets this card for an attack, you can return this card to the hand, then you can special summon 1 beast monster from your hand except Melffy Fenny. And during your end phase, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can only use each effect of Melffy Fenny once per turn. Next up, I have 3 copies of Melffy Puppy. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster or monsters during the damage, except during the damage step, or if an opponent's monster targets this card for an attack, you can return this card to your hand, then you can special summon 1 level 2 or lower beast monster from your deck, except for Melffy Puppy. And during your end phase, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use each effect of Melffy Puppy once per turn. Next for our monsters, we have 3 copies of Melffy Pony. So again, if your opponent normal or special summons a monster or monsters except during the damage step, or if an opponent's monster targets this card for an attack, you can return this card to the hand, and then you can add 1 level 2 or lower beast monster from your graveyard to your hand, except for Melffy Puppy or Melffy Pony. And during your end phase, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use each effect of Melffy Pony once per turn. Lastly, for the monsters, I have one copy of Melffy Caddy. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster or monsters except during the damage step, or if an opponent's monster declares or targets this card for an attack, you can return this card to the hand and you can add one beast monster from your deck to your hand except for Melffy Caddy. And during the end phase, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can only use each effect of Melffy Caddy once per turn. That's it for the monsters. Let's move on to the spells. So for the spells, first off, we're starting with one copy of Twin Twisters. You can discard one card, then target up to 2 spell or traps on the field and destroy them. Next up, we have 3 copies of Melffy Tag. This card lets you target one Melffy monster in your graveyard and special summon it, and you can only activate one Melffy Tag per turn. Next up, we have 3 copies of Melffy Hide and Seek. The first time, each beast monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect. Each turn, it is not destroyed, and you can target 3 beast monsters in your graveyard with different names and shuffle them into the deck, then draw 1 card, and you can only use each effect, or this effect of Melffy Hide and Seek once per turn. Lastly, for the spells, we have 3 copies of Obedience Schooled. So if you control no monsters, you can special summon 3 level 2 or lower beast effect monsters with different names from your deck, but their effects are negated. Also, they're destroyed during the end phase, and for the rest of this turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except beast monsters. And that's it for our spells. Let's move on to the traps. So first off, we have one copy of Jelly Cannon. When a monster declares an attack, you target one monster on the field and shuffle it into the deck. Next up, we have one copy of Bye Bye Damage. During damage calculation, if your monster is attacked, your battling monster cannot be destroyed by that battle. Also, if you take battle damage from that battle, your opponent takes effect damage equal to double that amount. You can only apply this effect of Bye Bye Damage once per turn. Next up, we have one copy of Witch's Strike. If your opponent negates the normal or special summon of a monster or monsters, or the activation of a card or effect, destroy all cards your opponent controls and in their hand. Next up, we have one copy of Jar of Avarice. This lets you target 5 cards in your graveyard except for Jar of Avarice and shuffle all 5 into the deck, then draw 1 card. You can only activate 1 Jar of Avarice per turn. Next up, we have the one compulsory evacuation device. This lets you target 1 monster on the field and return that target to the hand. And then we also have one copy of Lost Wind. This lets you target 1 face-up special summon monster on the field and negate its effects. Also, its original attack is halved. If a monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can set this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. And then we also have one copy of Wiretap. When a trap is activated, negate the activation, and if you do, shuffle that into that card into the deck. And lastly, for our traps, we have 3 copies of Melffy Playhouse. 1, 2, and 3. So this lets you detach any number of monsters from a Beast Xyz monster you control, then target up to that many cards your opponent controls, and return them to the hand. Also, all Beast Xyz monsters that you control gain 500 attack for each material detached to activate this card until the end of the turn. That's it for our traps. Let's move on to the extra deck. So to start off, I have 2 copies of Joyous Melffys. This requires 2+ level 2 beast monsters, and you can detach 1 material from this card, and your Melffy monsters can attack directly this turn. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target 1 Beast Xyz monster that you control and return that monster to the extra deck. Then you can special summon level 2 or lower beast monsters from your graveyard up to the number of materials that monster had, and you can only use this effect of Joyous Melffys once per turn. Next up, we have 3 copies of Melffy Mommy. This requires 2+ level 2 beast monsters. Once per turn, quick effect, you can detach 1 beast monster, you can attach 1 beast monster from your hand or face up on the field to this card as material. This card then gains effects based on the number of materials attached to it. If you have 3+, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. If you have 4+, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. And if this card has 5+, when an attack is declared involving this card and an attack position monster, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to that attack position monster's attack. Lastly, for our Xyz package, we have Melffy of the Forest, which requires 2 level 2 beast monsters, and that you can detach 1 material from this card and add 1 Melffy card from your deck to your hand. If another face-up Melffy monster you control returns to your hand except during the damage step, you can target 1 face-up monster that your opponent controls and it cannot attack. Also, its effects are negated while it is face-up on the field. You can only use each effect of Melffy of the Forest once per turn. Next, for our non-Melffy Xyz monsters, we have number 96 Dark Mist at 3. This requires 3 level 2 monsters, and once per battle, when an attack is declared involving this card and an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card and have the attack of the opponent's monster, and if you do, this card gains the same amount of attack. That's it for our Xyz package. Let's move on to the rest of the extra deck. So I have 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn and 2 copies of Nightmare Phoenix. Nightmare Phoenix requires 2 monsters with different names, and if this card is link summoned, you can discard 1 card, then target 1 spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy it. If this card was co-linked when this effect was activated, you can draw 1 card. You can only use this effect of Nightmare Phoenix once per turn. Co-linked monsters that you control cannot be destroyed by battle. And Unicorn's effect is 2+ monsters with different names, and if this card is link summoned, you can discard 1 card, then target 1 card on the field and return it to the deck. Then, if this card was co-linked, when the effect was activated, you can draw 1 card, and you can only use the effect of Nightmare Unicorn once per turn. And while any co-linked Nightmare monsters on the field are on the field, for your normal draw phase, draw 1 card for each different card name among those co-linked Nightmare monsters, instead of drawing just 1 card. And lastly, for our extra deck, we have 3 copies of Cross Sheep. This requires 2 monsters with different names, and if a monster is special summoned to a zone that this card points to, you can apply the following effects in sequence, and based on the card types of the monsters this card points to, it's either, if it's a ritual, you draw 2 cards. If it's a fusion, you special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard. If it's a synchro, all monsters you control gain 700 attack, and if it succeeds, all monsters your opponent controls lose 700 attack, and you can only use this effect of Cross Sheep once per turn. And that's it for the extra deck. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to leave a like. Also, if you're not already, consider subscribing to the channel for more fun Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and I will see you in the next one. That's game.